let's get to the presser. Some of the stuff that Mickey Joseph said after Nebraska's 26-9 loss to Illinois. Interesting opening comments when talking about the style of play in the Big Ten.
Well, it's Big Ten football. We gotta come back and we gotta go back to the practice field. We gotta have another physical 2 or 3 days of practice and get back at it. I mean, we can't run away from it. We gotta hit it. We gotta go in and hit it first. We can't run away from it right now.
There were interesting comments from both Mickey Joseph last week, I thought, and then you had Mark Whipple toward the end of the week saying some interesting things. Because Mickey has said over and over, we got to match the physicality of the teams that we're playing, these 5 games left. And starting with Illinois, you're going to get another one with Minnesota. Michigan, certainly a physical team. Then Iowa, Wisconsin, both really physical opponents. And Mickey was saying, hey, we got to be more physical. We've got to match the aggressiveness. And to the most part, they did a fairly good job. But then you had Mark Whipple say, you know what? Physical doesn't mean anything to me. It's about scoring points. It feels there's not an argument going on between those two guys, but there might be a little argument going on between those two guys.
Yeah, I noticed that. And the one thing that has become abundantly clear, Mark Whipple is an unreal passing game
play designer.
Yep. And I am astounded at how poor he designs a running offense.
Well,
he's the offensive coordinator.
The offensive line he has been handed is not a good one.
I get it, but at the same time, he can scheme. He could scheme a guy that is on crutches open in the passing game,
and a couple of times he kind of did that. I mean,
but
the Vokalek home run was pretty cool, 56 yards for a touchdown. The Brewington pass was really cool. The tight end screen. But you're right. We can talk about this as we go along. I just thought it was interesting how Mickey's been emphasizing physicality, and Mark's just like, I don't really care. I just want to score some points.
Yeah, and I guess I'm going to side with Mickey on that one. Yeah. I don't get the. At the end of the day, yeah, I get it. Points are more important, but this is the Big Ten. This is where you get punched in the mouth, and if you don't punch back, you're going to get beat 26-9.
It was obvious Nebraska suffered when Casey Thompson went down on his second pick of the night. This is Mickey talking about that.
Well, I knew after when Casey went down, we was in, we thought we was in good place when Casey went down. After Casey went down through the pick, I was surprised that it got away that quick. Got away from us.
It does seem like both Chubba Purdy, well, it didn't seem, they just weren't effective. Neither him or Logan Smothers. Now, Logan didn't get a big opportunity. He played a couple of, and they showed the run game. They obviously had a package of plays more so for Smothers than they did with Purdy. I think they tried to run the previous offense that they were running under Casey Thompson with Purdy, and he's just not ready yet. He's just not ready to do it.
No, not at all. And to have a guy like Logan Smothers that's been in the program for as long as he has, and I get it, he's in his first year with this offense as well, and this offense does not suit his skill set that he's really good at. I get all of that, but how does Logan Smothers, after watching Chubba Purdy play, how is Logan Smothers not better than that? I find it hard to believe. I don't get why Logan didn't get more time. That makes no sense to me.
Right.
Chubba Purdy just does not look like he's ready to take a snap, a meaningful snap in a game right now.
It's hard to believe that Nebraska can go very far. I mean, they were going to struggle even if Casey Thompson was at 100% effectiveness. And you could say, oh, well, they dropped the pass. Ramir Johnson dropped the big pass, and that was a big drop. But you shouldn't have to play perfect football every single week just to be in a game. And it feels like Nebraska is there. But that being said, losing Casey, there's just not another Casey on this roster.
No.
There's Casey Thompson, and then there's, whatever you have at backup.
Yeah, and Chubba Purdy, I think, is a very talented young man. He just does not look like he's ready for the prime time or the spotlight right now. And I hopefully it's just something where he's got to work through it. And there's no better experience than just, getting thrown into the fire and figuring it out, which hopefully he does.
Mickey Joseph, obviously a very thoughtful guy. This is him talking about Illinois being able to run rub routes on Nebraska's defense.
There were some rub routes, and we got to fight through the rubs. We got to get over the top of it, or we got to fight through the trash to get there. We talked to him all week about the pick routes, and that's the first touchdown was on a pick route. And we gotta fight through the noise. We gotta fight through it.
He says a lot of the same things over and over, but I guess that's how you get a message across. I mean, you're kind of you're seeing a theme a little bit with him, right? That I and I'm not here to pick on Scott Frost, but it never seemed like there was any particular theme with Scott Frost. It was just whatever he felt like talking about that week. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little too mean on that one.
No, I think you're absolutely right.
Back to what some of the stuff that Mickey Joseph said at the press conference after the game, Nebraska losing to Illinois 26-9. Purdy, we talked about Purdy and him being in the game.
Well, he's just got to take care of the football. On the interception, he's throwbacks across the field. You learn that first day of quarterback school. Don't throw across your body. Don't throw across the field. Should have just ran the ball because we already were in field goal range. We already had points, and he understood that. After I got to get him. I got to prep him better. I got to get him ready better.
Well, and right there you go. Mickey just states the obvious that Chubba Purdy knows this is the wrong thing to do. Right. Yet he did it anyway, and then Mickey says, that's my fault. I've got to coach him better. And that's he's
the CEO. He's right. He's right in that. But I think that he has a way of saying, it's his fault, but I got to coach better. I think, I mean, he doesn't ever lay it on a player. He always takes the blame, but I've got to coach better so he can play better. That's basically it. I mean, he's not shying away from what he's doing here as the head coach at Nebraska. Obviously, Trey Palmer struggled in this game. One of the big reasons, coming off a career day the week before and then going into the bye week. Maybe you thought with 2 weeks to prepare, they could work ways to get Trey Palmer open, but it was a point of emphasis for that Illinois defense on Saturday. Mickey talking about it.
Well, they mixed it up. We couldn't get it to him, but they were really handsy, and we talked to him during the week that they're just not going to let you run. So he's got to run through some of the contact. He understood that after doing the game that he had to run through it, but just some plays we just couldn't get it to him.
There you go.
That's interesting. That he's a guy that I would have thought you wouldn't have to explain to him after the game that how difficult it is to run through. Some handsiness by defensive backs.
Yeah. Well, they're very handsy, and you just kind of have to. And I think officials know that unless it's egregious, that a certain team, they let some teams play to their personality.
Yeah.
And Illinois is really aggressive, but you're going to see that same type of defense versus Wisconsin and Iowa, and certainly this week as well. I mean, it's just what it is. All these teams in the West are the same. I can't tell a lot of big difference between Illinois and Minnesota this week or Iowa.
We're going to rank our top 14 Big Ten teams here later on, and I swear that number 12 through number 6 are just all tied for 6th.
They're all the same team.
They're all the same
and sometimes
team.
You forget, well, that team beat that team, so they've got to be higher. But you're like, no, it's just that week. What happened? Where was it played? How many fumbles were there? That type of thing. So you're going to see some of our rankings probably not make very many, in some cases, any sense when you talk about head-to-head competition and who won those games. It doesn't seem to matter in the Big Ten West. But who's going to win the Big Ten West? I guess it's Illinois. This is Mickey Joseph on trusting Mark Whipple.
Well, I'm confident in him, but I think that, if Whip wants to go with Chubba because we think Chubba throws a little better, let's go with Chubba. But we'll have to take it from here because we don't know what's going to go on with Casey. So it's a possibility you'll see both of them.
I trust him, but very interesting comment there. Your bottom line, if Casey Thompson is not healthy, they've got to figure out how they can, get Chubba a package at the beginning of a game if he's going to get a start to make him feel comfortable. Because he wasn't a 4-star recruit going to Florida State and, moving on to here, et cetera, because he's not talented. Yeah. You just got to get him. Maybe it's just a little bit of, because
a lot of times it's as simple as, finding plays that he can execute. And maybe there's a package of plays for both he and Logan. In fact, Mickey talked about that after the game. Why didn't Logan play more?
Well, we wanted to go Logan because we thought we was going to run some option, and then we figured we had to throw it to get back in it, so we went with Chubb.
Well, that's just telling you that they trust Chubb to throw the football, and not as much with Logan.
Well, and you watch the spring game, and you can understand. And, the interesting thing is, I thought against Iowa last year, Logan Smothers threw the ball pretty well, and in the spring game, and granted, it his two-hand touch, whatever they did, but Smothers just didn't look comfortable throwing the ball, and it just looked a little awkward, and it wasn't as accurate. And it at the same time, he's another guy that was a 4-star recruit that I don't know.
Let's face it. If you're the number one guy, you're going to get all the reps in practice, especially during the season. And if you're a Shepard Purdy, you could say, well, it's always next man up mentality. But if you don't get those reps in practice, those first team reps, there's a big drop off. And there's also a reason why one guy is named the starter and the other guy is named a backup.
Yeah.
I think Purdy is a pretty talented athlete. And I think he's a 4-star recruit for a reason. I would be anxious to learn what happens when he becomes maybe the guy next year. Who knows? Does Casey stick around for another year at Nebraska? He can.
It depends on who the offensive coordinator is, because I'm pretty confident it's not going to be Mark Whipple. But
there's a lot of offensive coordinators that would look at him and say, I'd like to keep him. But you're right. He might decide to follow a guy like Whipple wherever he goes.
Yeah.
And Whipple, if he wants to continue coaching in college football, I'm guessing somebody would hire him.
The guy's a genius.
He's really smart. And even Nebraska, with that offensive line, moves the ball.
Yeah.
At least when they have their number one guy. They didn't in the second half when they didn't have their number one guy. This is one final thought from Mickey Joseph here. What did he say in his post-game speech to the guys?
Well, we just talked and said, you know what, we're gonna come back, we're gonna watch the film, and we're gonna look ourselves in the mirror. We're gonna be honest with ourselves. We're gonna tell the truth like we always do on Sunday, and we're gonna see where it went wrong at. We're gonna fix it, because if we don't fix it, it's a copycat lead. They'll come back and hit us with it again next week.
He says that stuff every week, but the message again, there's a reason coaches say the same thing and they become cliches because every coach says them. Some coaches just mean them more. And it feels like Mickey just really means what he says. He's really dialed in on his football beliefs.
Well, he is. And it's so funny now. We're, 4, 5, 6 weeks into him being the interim head coach and all the press conferences, et cetera. And it is so painfully obvious why young men want to play for a coach like that. It just is. Yeah. There's no BS. There's no sugarcoating. There's no nothing. It's just straightforward honesty. And guys that don't want to play for him, they don't like to be held accountable.
No.
They don't like to be told they're not the greatest, the best, the whatever.
And you probably don't want that guy on your team.
Exactly.
So you might as well clean house with him. And I think that approach, guys know where they stand. Wait a minute, I don't like that guy. I don't like playing for a guy that demands a lot of me and wants me to be honest with him all the time. I'm out.
Yeah.
And you'll get those guys out of your program. They can see through their own eyes. They don't have to be told in many cases. They can see through their own eyes that they don't fit in a Mickey Joseph culture. And I don't think every player does. And I don't want every player to fit in with Nebraska. It should be a hard place to play.
Yeah.
The demands should be high. And you should have a coach who's honest with them. And I still think there's a very good chance that Mickey Joseph, while he won't be the next head coach at the University of Nebraska, and I still think there's a chance of that, I think they're going to try to find a place on the staff for him. And we'll see how that goes. There are a lot of head coaches in college football that don't like to be told what to do with their staff. So that seems like maybe it could be a power struggle down the line, with a guy like Trev Alberts and the coach to be.